the velvet rope up, so you're stuck with me. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Chodesh Tov. We're going to do something a little bit different this morning, so I hope you'll humor me. And I know that you all just sat down, but I want to invite you to stand up if you are able. The groan, the collective groan. Oh. And we're going to do some choreography together. We're going to do some dance steps together. And Robin sits down. Yeah, I lost you with that. I want you to pretend that we are going into the Amida. Okay? And we're going into the Amida, whether it's the Shaarey Amida or the Musaf Amida. We're going into the Amida together. And the very first thing that we need to do is we need to put our legs together. And then what's the next thing we do? Neil? We back up. Which step, which foot do we use to go backwards? I heard both. Our left foot goes backwards first. We go 1, 2, 3. And then we go forward 3 steps, starting with which foot? Our right foot. 1, 2, 3. Our feet come back together. And then when we say those opening verses, we bow from our knees. And that is the opening choreography for the Musaf Amida. And now, you may be seated. You did great. That was beautiful. And now, the easy part is over. That was the easy part. Now, someone tell me why. Why do we do that? Why do we do those dance steps? We're bowing before the king, right? So Maimonides tells us that before we go to the king, we have to be able to present ourselves. So first we come from a place of humility where we are backwards. And then when we go before the king, we approach God's throne. And then we bow before the king. Now, why do we keep our feet together? Because of the angels. We actually read this not too long ago from the Haftorah for Shavuot, right? From the book of Yechezkel, where Ezekiel sees these angels. He has this vision of angels, and the angels have their legs fused together. And because the angels' legs are fused together, we emulate that. We imitate them so that we ourselves are like the angels. And we do the same thing for the Kedusha, by the way, when we go up on our toes for Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh. It is as if we are elevating ourselves all the way up into the heavens. That is why we do it. Now, here's a more important question. Why do we really do it? Because we can give sources all we want, and we can use the symbolism of what does it mean to come before the king? What does it mean to come before the presence of God? But why do we do these rehearsed dance steps? 3 steps backwards, 3 steps forward, bowing. And I'd like to offer you my opinion this morning. I think that we do them because if we didn't, we probably wouldn't be saying the Amida anymore. I believe that. I think that ritual and the ability to put something physical matched with something spiritual and something important and foundational as our Amida text, as the Shemona Esrei, that is the physical that keeps it alive. I was listening to an interview this past week, and I just started reading this guy's book. His name is Michael Norton, and he has a whole book that were 20 years worth of studies on ritual. And let me tell you, as a Jew reading this book, it is like, this is what we've been saying. This is why we do everything in such a routinized way. Because we do. Give me some other examples of Jewish ritual, physical Jewish ritual. Let's say Shalom B'Ramah, we take our steps backwards, we bow to our left, to our right, forward, we get back up on our toes. The Shema, what do we do during the Shema, Emma? We cover our eyes, we kiss our tzitzit, physical ritual attached to it. Anyone else? Lighting candles, we wave Shabbos in. Robin? Kadosh, 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 up on our toes. Sarah? Yep, so when we have our tefillin on, both during the Shema and during Ashrei, we touch our hand tefillin, we kiss our hand tefillin, we touch our head tefillin, we kiss our head tefillin. All of these things, netilat yadayim, 3 washes on each side of our hands. We are routinized as Jews. Ritual is important to us. And one of the things that this man, Michael Norton, starts with in his book is he talks about a German philosopher named Max Weber, who was a philosopher who was writing during the 1800s, and he saw the Industrial Revolution happen, and he became depressed. So incredibly depressed that he took to his bed and wouldn't get up, because he saw with the Industrial Revolution the end of what he argued was the end of magic. Everything was replacing the magic of ritual. And in some ways, his words were prophetic, because we see in the year 2024 that membership and association with places that we usually consider to be the homes of ritual are down dramatically. Whether that be Jewish services, Christian services, Muslim services, whatever it may be, organized institutional religion, numbers are down. And faith and trust in the institutions that we once held dear, also parts of ritual, politics, political institutions, faith and trust in those institutions is down dramatically. And this is exactly what Max Weber said. It's the end of magic, he argued. But then Michael Norton goes on to say that despite what Max Weber said, ritual is still very much alive and well. And he uses the paradigm, the paragon of that, as Peloton. Peloton. Who, by the way, Peloton, so for those of you who don't know, Peloton it started with an indoor riding cycle program where you get your Peloton bike, but you also subscribe to a service where you get to be in classes, digital classes, with people from all over the country, really all over the world. And Peloton was already booming, but then COVID happened. And when COVID happened and everyone was stuck in their house, the Peloton community exploded. And something really interesting happened. Not only were people joining together in community to ride their bikes in a shared class, but Peloton started taking inspiration from religious services and started having candle night bike rides, where they filled the rooms with candles, and where some of the instructors gave motivational speeches halfway through. You're listening to one of them right now. They took for their inspiration religious services. And for the people that are participating in those courses, I'm just curious, show of hands of anyone who's done a Peloton course. And what a lot of those folks I know, Rabbi. And what a lot of those folks can attest to is the power of community that comes with it. It is one thing to sit on your bike and watch TV, watch SportsCenter, and try to get your daily workout in. It's another thing entirely to be in a room, even if you're not physically in the same room, but to be communally in a room with people and to have someone telling you that you're doing a good job, not just about riding your bike, by the way, that you are doing a good job in your life and that you're making it. Ritual is not dead. Ritual is very much alive. But I would argue that the way that we think about ritual, especially when it comes to our Jewish context, especially when it comes to religious services and the way that we interact with our Judaism, we sometimes take it for granted. We don't really think about why we're doing the things we're doing, or even that we're doing them at all. I can speak for, I know a lot of us when we go to that Amida that we're about to do, and we just go on autopilot. 3 steps backwards, 3 steps forward, bow left, bow right, up on your toes. These things are autopilot. And because they're autopilot, we don't really give them the credence that they deserve. But what Michael Norton argues in this book, and I think it's really an incredible argument, is that it's the ritual that fills our life with meaning, not for the sake of anyone else. God doesn't need us on our toes. God doesn't need us stepping backwards 3 steps and forwards 3 steps. God doesn't need the choreography. We learned that in our Haftorah this morning that Robin read for us so beautifully. God doesn't need any of the dancing. But we do. We do. It makes a world of difference to be able to infuse something with choreography, to be able to put something physical, to be able to put ritual to something that we deem normal, monotonous, habitual. Does anyone have a bedtime routine? Something that you do every single night before you go to bed, a certain thing that you listen to something, that you watch something, that you brush your teeth at a certain time, just a daily ritual, just a show of hands. And there's this, again, Michael Norton in his book says that he has a bedtime ritual for his children, and for a long time he thought, there's no way that my children would ever go to bed unless I did this, 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 and this. These are the things we have to do, otherwise they're going to stay awake forever. But in reality, in doing this research, he found, no, we do this, 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 and this because it's good for me. It helps me. Because I think we can all agree on this here. The world is crazy. It's crazy out there. And there's so much chaos and so much uncertainty and so much unknown that when we get to have a bedtime routine, or that when we get to take 3 steps backwards and 3 steps forward, when we get to wash our hands before we eat bread, when we get to say certain words before we make kiddush, when we get to look forward every single week to having certain people together on Friday nights, or certain people together at Shabbat lunch, or we know that we get to see someone that we deeply care about, whatever the routine is, it brings us all the way back to Bereshit. It brings us back to God putting order into chaos. And when we put order into chaos, it's not beneficial just for the people around us, it's beneficial to us. And so here's my challenge. I'm giving us some homework this week. The first piece of homework is easy because we're about to go into the Amida, and we just practiced it together. You guys are all rock stars. I saw you do it. But when you do it, I want you to think about why we're doing it. I want you to really be mindful of each of those steps. I want you to be mindful of what does it mean to keep your legs together for that prayer. And I want you to be mindful of any other ritual, physical ritual elements that we're going to add to the rest of this service. Not just in here, but also when we go into lunch. And to be mindful of them. The second piece, which is a little bit harder, is I want you to be mindful of all of the other rituals that you incorporate into your week, in the next week ahead. I mean the rituals that aren't just Jewish rituals, right? If you have a bedtime routine, if you have a morning routine, if you have certain rituals that you incorporate into your day, to be mindful of them. And finally, this is the hardest part. I want you to find pieces in your life that feel a bit disappointing. Things maybe in your day or in your week that feel like you don't look forward to them, they don't really speak to you, they don't give you that same kind of meaning. And I want to invite you to either with me or with any of us or with a friend or a family member to brainstorm a way that you can put ritual into those things. It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be complicated. But one way to infuse ritual to make something that might feel mundane something special. So that is my challenge to all of us. And as we head into this next week, I want to remind us that you're not crazy. The world is nuts. It is. It truly is. But we get a say in it. We don't have to be victims to the world. We get to have a say. We get to put some order. We get to put some beauty. We get to put some meaning into a world that so badly needs it. Shabbat shalom, everyone. And because this is